partner invited his ex-wife to stay in our home for Thanksgiving without asking me. I'd been living with my partner Garrett for a year when his 26-year-old son Keith moved back in after losing his job. Garrett assured me it was temporary, maybe 3 months while Keith got back on his feet, and I agreed because that's what you do when someone's kid is struggling. Keith took over the spare bedroom, the one we'd been calling the guest room, and I adjusted to having another person in the house, another schedule to work around, another set of dishes in the sink. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I confirmed plans with my sister Rachel. She'd been planning to visit for months, looking forward to her first Thanksgiving in our new place. I told her the guest room was hers, that I'd pick her up from the airport Wednesday afternoon, and she sent back 3 excited messages about the recipes she wanted to try. That night, Garrett mentioned his ex-wife's name like it was nothing. Diane wants to come stay for Thanksgiving, he said. He was loading the dishwasher, not even looking at me. She's having a hard time with Keith being unemployed. Thought it'd be good for her to see him, be close to family during all this. I stopped halfway to the table. Stay where? The guest room. He closed the dishwasher and turned it on. Just for the long weekend, Thursday through Sunday. Rachel's staying in the guest room. He frowned like I'd said something confusing. Can't Rachel get a hotel? Diane's coming from 3 states away. She can't afford a hotel right now. I set my coffee mug down harder than I meant to. Rachel planned this 2 months ago. She bought her ticket. I told her she had the room. This is about Keith. Garrett crossed his arms. Diane needs to be here for him. He's going through something. Then Diane can get a hotel. She's his mother. And Rachel's my sister, and she was invited first. Garrett shook his head slowly, the way you do when someone's being unreasonable and you're trying to stay patient. I didn't think you'd make this difficult. Diane just wants to support her son. That's what families do. We're not her family. You divorced her. Keith is her family. And Keith lives here right now. He stepped closer, lowering his voice like that would make it more reasonable. I thought you understood how real families handle things like this. When someone's in crisis, you make room. You don't nickel and dime who gets the guest bed. My chest went tight. I'm not nickel and diming anything. I'm saying my sister already has plans, and inviting your ex-wife to stay in our home is bizarre. It's one weekend. It's our first Thanksgiving here. Garrett's jaw tightened. So that's what this is about. You want some picture-perfect holiday, and Keith's situation is inconvenient for you. I opened my mouth, couldn't find the next word, and closed it again. Diane's not asking for much, he said. She just wants to see her son. If you can't be flexible for that, I don't know what to tell you. He walked out of the kitchen before I could answer. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later. Unknown number. The message started with, "Hi, this is Diane," and ended with, "I hope you'll understand." The whole text was 3 paragraphs. She didn't want to cause drama. She knew this was my home too. But Keith was really struggling, and she hadn't seen him in person since July, and she just wanted to be there for him during the holiday, and she hoped I'd be understanding given how much he was going through. She signed it with a heart emoji. I stared at the message for a full minute before Keith knocked on the bedroom door. "Hey," he said when I opened it. "My dad told me about Thanksgiving. Your mom texted me." "Yeah." He shifted his weight, glanced down the hall. "Look, I know it's weird, but she's really worried about me, and I think it'd help if she could just be here. It's only a few days. Rachel's already planning to stay here. Can't she get a hotel or something? My mom can't really afford that right now." He scratched the back of his neck. "I don't get why you can't just be flexible. It's one holiday." I looked at him standing there in our hallway, in the house I paid half the mortgage on, and realized I was being cornered by 3 people who'd already decided how this was going to go. I called Rachel that night after Garrett went to bed. "So there's a situation," I said, and explained the whole thing in one long breath. She was quiet for a second. "His ex-wife wants to stay in your guest room." "Yes." "The room I'm supposed to be staying in?" "Yes." "And he thinks I should just get a hotel." He didn't say it like that exactly, but yes. Rachel laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "That's unbelievable." I told him you planned first. He said Diane needs to be close to Keith, and I'm being difficult. "You're being difficult because you don't want his ex-wife sleeping down the hall from you on Thanksgiving?" "Apparently," she sighed. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to stay here like we planned. I want Garrett to tell Diane she can visit during the day or find a hotel." "And is that going to happen?" I pressed my fingers against my forehead. "I don't know. Do you want me to talk to him?" "No, God, no, that'll make it worse." "Okay," she paused. "Then I'll be there Wednesday like we planned, and we'll figure it out." I thanked her and hung up, but I didn't feel better. The next morning, I tried again with Garrett. "I talked to Rachel," I said. "She's still planning to come." He poured his coffee without looking at me. "So what's the plan then? Diane stays in a hotel while your sister gets the room?" "Diane can visit during the day. She doesn't have to stay here. She's driving 8 hours. You want her to turn around and find a hotel after all that?" "I want the person who was invited first to get the room she was promised." Garrett set his mug down. "This isn't about who was invited first. This is about Keith. He asked for one thing. One thing. And you're saying no because your sister can't handle a hotel for a few nights. Rachel shouldn't have to handle a hotel. She's my family. And Keith is mine. I know that, but Diane isn't." His face changed. "Diane is Keith's mother. She's always going to be part of this family whether you like it or not. She's your ex-wife. She's the mother of my son, and if you can't understand that, maybe you don't understand what you signed up for." He left for work without saying anything else. Keith avoided me for 2 days. He'd leave a room when I walked in, eat dinner in his bedroom, headphones on anytime we passed in the hall. On the 3rd day, I caught him in the kitchen making a sandwich. "Can we talk?" I asked. He didn't look up. "About what?" "Thanksgiving. I don't really want to be in the middle of this." "I'm not trying to put you in the middle. Then why can't my mom just stay here?" He finally looked at me. "She's coming all this way to see me. I don't get why that's such a huge problem. It's not a problem that she's visiting, it's that the guest room is already taken. So bump your sister to a hotel. She's an adult. She'll survive." My mouth went dry. "She planned this months ago. And my mom needs this now. I'm going through something, okay? I lost my job. I'm living with my dad at 26. My mom is freaking out, and I just want her here so she can see I'm fine and stop calling me every day in tears." He wrapped his sandwich in a paper towel. "I didn't think it was that big of an ask. It's not about the ask, it's about how it got decided." "Nothing got decided. My dad asked. You said no. Now everyone's miserable." He picked up his plate. I don't know what you want me to say. He walked out before I could answer. Rachel called me that afternoon. I'm going to book a hotel, she said. What? No. I can hear it in your voice. This is eating you alive, and I don't want to be the reason you're fighting with Garrett right before a holiday. You're not the reason, Diane is. Doesn't matter. If I take myself out of the equation, at least one part of this goes away. Rachel, you don't have to do that. I know I don't have to. I want to. I'll still come Wednesday. I'll still do Thanksgiving with you. I just won't sleep there. My throat tightened. This isn't fair to you. It's not fair to you either, but here we are. She paused. Book me something nearby, okay? Somewhere with a decent breakfast. I wanted to argue, but I didn't have the energy. Okay. It's going to be fine. I hung up and sat on the couch for 10 minutes, staring at nothing. When Garrett got home, I told him Rachel was getting a hotel. His whole face relaxed. That's good. I'll let Diane know she can come, Rachel offered. I didn't tell her to. I know, but it's the right call. Diane will appreciate it. I don't care if Diane appreciates it. He stopped halfway to the kitchen. What's that supposed to mean? It means I just made my sister book a hotel so your ex-wife can stay in my house, and you're acting like I should be happy about it. I'm not acting like anything. I'm saying it's a good solution. It's not a solution. It's me losing. Garrett stared at me for a long moment. If that's how you want to see it. He walked away, and I heard him on the phone a few minutes later, telling Diane the guest room was hers. I waited until the morning Diane was supposed to arrive to say anything. Garrett was packing up the last of the laundry from the guest room, putting fresh sheets on the bed, and I stood in the doorway watching him smooth down the comforter. We need to talk about how this week is going to work, I said. He glanced up. What do you mean? I mean ground rules. If Diane's staying here, she needs to help with meals and cleaning. She can't just be a guest we're waiting on. She's driving 8 hours to get here. I know, and once she's rested, she can pitch in like anyone else staying in our home. Garrett straightened up, hands on his hips. You're really going to make her do chores? I'm saying she's not a guest. She's Keith's mother, here to see him, and that's fine, but I'm not hosting her. I'm not cooking for her, or cleaning up after her, or pretending this is her house. It's Thanksgiving. You want me to hand her a mop when she walks in? I want her to act like someone staying in a home that isn't hers. That's it. He shook his head slowly. This is what I'm talking about. You're being cold. I'm being clear. You're being petty. He walked past me into the hall. Diane's going through a hard time. Her son just lost his job. She's worried about him. And you want to turn this into some kind of power play about who does the dishes. It's not a power play, it's a boundary. It's you making sure everyone knows this is your house and she's not welcome. My hands curled into fists. She's not welcome. Not like this. Not as someone who gets to waltz in here and take over my holiday because Keith's having a rough month. Garrett stopped at the end of the hallway and turned back. That's his mother. She's not taking over anything. She's trying to be there for her son. And I'm trying to keep some sense of control in my own home. Then maybe you shouldn't have agreed to let her stay. I didn't agree. Rachel backed out and you took that as permission. Rachel made the right call. Rachel felt pressured. Rachel understood that sometimes you have to be flexible. He walked into the kitchen, done with the conversation. I followed him. If Diane stays here, these are the rules. She helps with cooking. She cleans up after herself. She doesn't act like this is a reunion with you, and she doesn't treat me like I'm the obstacle. I'm not giving her a list of rules when she shows up. Then I will. He slammed the cabinet door. You're going to stand there and tell her she's not welcome in her own son's space? This isn't her son's space. It's ours. Keith is staying here temporarily and she's visiting him. That's it. You really don't get it, do you? He turned to face me fully. Keith is always going to be part of my life. Diane is always going to be part of his life. That means she's part of mine. If you can't handle that, I don't know what to tell you. I can handle it when she's at a distance. I can't handle it when she's sleeping down the hall and you're acting like we're all one big happy family. We are family. That's what co-parenting is. Co-parenting doesn't mean she gets to stay in my house whenever she wants. It's my house too. I stared at him. I know it is. Then stop acting like you're the only one who gets a say. He grabbed his keys and left for work without another word. Keith came out of his room an hour later, phone in hand. My mom just texted me, he said. She's freaking out. I closed my laptop. About what? About you. She said you're putting all these conditions on her staying here and she doesn't know if she should even come anymore. I didn't talk to your mom. Well, my dad did. And now she's crying and saying maybe she should just stay home so you can have your perfect holiday. That's not what I said. Then what did you say? I stood up. I said if she's staying here, she needs to help out. That's it. She's a guest. She's staying for 4 days. That's not a guest. That's a house guest, and house guests pitch in. Keith's face flushed. You're unbelievable. She's coming here to see me because I'm going through something, and you're making it about chores and rules and who's in charge. I'm making it about boundaries. You're making it worse. He shoved his phone in his pocket. I asked for one thing. I asked if my mom could come see me for Thanksgiving, and you turned it into this whole nightmare. Now she's talking about not coming at all, and it's because of you. It's because your dad didn't ask me before inviting her. He shouldn't have to ask. It's his house. It's my house too. Then act like it. Stop making everyone miserable because you can't handle my mom being around for a few days. He walked back to his room and shut the door hard enough that the frame rattled. My phone buzzed 10 minutes later. Diane's message was 7 paragraphs long. She started with, I really don't want to make this harder than it already is, and went on to say she'd never felt so unwelcome in her life. She understood this was my home, and she respected that, but she thought I'd be more understanding given everything Keith was going through. She wasn't trying to intrude or take over or cause problems. She just wanted to see her son and make sure he was okay, and if that was going to be such an issue, maybe she should just stay home. She didn't want to be somewhere she wasn't wanted. She signed it, I hope you understand, with no punctuation. I read it twice, then put my phone face down on the counter. Rachel called that afternoon. How are you holding up? She asked. I'm not. What happened? I told her about the rules, about Garrett calling me petty, about Keith saying I was making everything worse, about Diane's message. Rachel was quiet for a moment. Do you want me to cancel? What? No. I just feel like I'm making this harder. If I wasn't coming, maybe some of the pressure would ease up. You're not the problem, Diane is. I know, but I'm going to be there watching all of this happen, and I don't know if that's going to help or just make you feel worse. My throat tightened. I want you there. Okay, but if it gets too uncomfortable, I'm going to leave early. I'm not going to sit there and watch them steamroll you in your own house. It's not going to come to that. I hope not. She hung up, and I sat on the couch staring at the wall. Garrett didn't come home until after 8. When he finally walked in, he went straight to the bedroom without saying anything. I gave him 10 minutes, then followed. We need to figure this out, I said. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, scrolling through his phone. Diane's still coming? She's leaving tomorrow morning. Did you tell her what I said? I told her you had some concerns. She's upset, but she's coming anyway because Keith needs her. And the rules? I'm not giving her a list of rules. She's an adult. She knows how to be respectful. That's not the same thing. It's going to have to be. He set his phone down. I'm not starting her visit by handing her a chore chart. If you want to bring it up while she's here, that's on you. So you're not backing me up. I'm not going to micromanage how she acts in our house, no. It's not micromanaging, it's setting expectations. It's you making sure everyone knows you're in charge. He stood up. Diane's going to be here tomorrow. Keith's excited to see her. Rachel's staying at a hotel. Can we just get through the weekend without turning it into a war? I didn't start this. You're not stopping it either. He walked out, and I heard the guest bathroom door close a minute later. I called my friend Colleen the next morning, the one who'd met Garrett and knew Keith from a few family events. I need an outside perspective, I said, and laid out the whole situation. She listened, asked a few clarifying questions, then sighed. I get why you're frustrated, she said. But isn't this just part of blended families? You have to make room for the ex sometimes. She's not just dropping by, she's staying here for 4 days. Because her son's going through something. I think if you dig in too hard on this, you're going to come across as the rigid one. I'm not being rigid, I'm asking for basic boundaries. Boundaries are good, but maybe this isn't the hill to die on. It's one holiday. If you make it a huge deal, Garrett's going to remember that every time something like this comes up. So I'm supposed to just let her move in whenever she wants? I didn't say that. I'm saying pick your battles. Blended families are messy. If you can't compromise on the small stuff, the big stuff is going to be impossible. I thanked her and hung up, feeling worse than before. Diane was arriving in 3 hours, and I still didn't know how to get through the next 4 days. Diane's car pulled into the driveway at 2 in the afternoon. I watched from the kitchen window as Garrett walked out to meet her, helped carry her bags, and hugged her for what felt like a full minute. Keith came out right after, and the three of them stood on the driveway talking and laughing like they were the only people in the world. I stayed inside and finished wiping down the counters. When they finally came in, Diane walked straight to me with her arms out. Thank you so much for having me. I know this wasn't easy. I let her hug me. She smelled like floral perfume and coffee. It's fine. I really appreciate it. I just needed to see Keith and make sure he's okay. She pulled back and looked around the kitchen. This is such a lovely home. You've done a beautiful job with it. Thanks. Garrett carried her bags down the hall. I'll get you settled in the guest room. Oh, let me help, Diane said, and followed him without waiting for an answer. Keith stayed in the kitchen, grinning. It's good she's here. I'm glad you're happy. I am. She's been so worried, and now she can see I'm fine. It's a relief. I nodded and turned back to the sink. An hour later, I was pulling ingredients out of the fridge when Diane walked in and opened the pantry. Where do you keep your baking dishes? She asked. Second cabinet left of the stove. She pulled one out, set it on the counter, then started moving things around on the shelves. Do you mind if I reorganize a little? I like to have the spices grouped by type. It makes cooking so much easier. I stopped with my hand on a bag of potatoes. That's fine. She smiled and kept rearranging. By the time she finished, the cumin was next to the cinnamon and the garlic powder was on the opposite side of the kitchen from the onion powder. Garrett walked in, saw her at the counter, and grinned. Already making yourself at home. I couldn't help it, you know me. She laughed and he laughed with her, and I went back to peeling potatoes. We should talk about Thursday, Diane said. I brought my stuffing recipe, the one Keith loves. I thought I could make that and maybe the green bean casserole. That sounds great, Garrett said. We're doing turkey and mashed potatoes, right? I was planning on it, I said. Diane pulled out her phone and started scrolling. What time are we eating? I need to know when to start everything. Around 3, I said. Perfect. I'll get up early and start the stuffing. Keith can help me. Garrett leaned against the counter. Remember that Thanksgiving we did at your parents' place? Keith was 6 and ate so much stuffing he made himself sick. Diane laughed. He cried because I wouldn't let him have more. You had to carry him to the car. He fell asleep on the way home with his face pressed against the window. They kept going, trading stories I'd never heard, laughing at punchlines I didn't understand. I finished the potatoes and moved to the other side of the kitchen, and neither of them looked up. Rachel arrived 2 hours later. I met her in the driveway and hugged her hard. How bad is it? She asked. She's reorganizing my kitchen. Rachel pulled back and looked at me. Seriously? She moved all the spices. She's planning Thanksgiving dinner like I'm not here. Where's Garrett? Inside, laughing with her about old memories. Rachel grabbed her bag from the trunk. Let's get through this. I introduced her to Diane in the living room. Diane stood up and shook her hand with a big smile. It's so nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you. I've heard a lot about you too, Rachel said, and I caught the edge in her voice even if no one else did. Keith came out of his room and hugged Rachel. Thanks for getting a hotel. I know it wasn't ideal, but it means a lot that my mom could be here. Rachel smiled tightly. No problem. We ordered pizza for dinner because no one wanted to cook. Diane sat next to Garrett at the table, and they spent most of the meal talking to Keith while Rachel and I ate in near silence. At one point, Diane reached over and squeezed Garrett's arm while she was telling a story, and he didn't pull away. Rachel caught my eye and raised her eyebrows. After dinner, Diane insisted on doing the dishes. It's the least I can do, she said, and started loading the dishwasher before I could say anything. She rearranged how I'd stacked the plates, reorganized the silverware basket, and wiped down the counters with a different sponge than the one I always used. Garrett thanked her and told her she didn't have to do all that. I want to, she said. I'm just grateful to be here. Rachel pulled me into the guest bathroom an hour later. I can't watch this, she said, keeping her voice low. Watch what? Her acting like she lives here. Him acting like you don't exist. Keith treating you like you're the help. It's only been a few hours. And it's already unbearable. She's rearranging your kitchen, planning your Thanksgiving dinner, and touching your partner like they're still married. And he's letting her. I know. So what are you gonna do? Get through the weekend. Rachel shook her head. I don't think I can stay for all of it. I'm sorry. I love you. But I can't sit at that table on Thursday and watch them treat you like a guest in your own house. You don't have to leave. I do. Because if I stay, I'm going to say something. And it's going to make everything worse. I pressed my palms against my eyes. Just stay for Thursday, please. I'll try. I found Garrett in the bedroom later that night. We need to talk, I said. He looked up from his phone. About what? About Diane. She's taking over. She's rearranging the kitchen, planning the whole meal, acting like she's hosting Thanksgiving. She's trying to help. She's not helping. She's treating this like her house. She's cooking. That's helpful. She didn't ask. She just decided. Garrett set his phone down. What do you want me to do? Tell her she can't cook in the kitchen? I want you to remind her that this is our house, not hers. She knows that. She's not acting like it, and you're not acting like it either. What's that supposed to mean? It means you've spent the entire evening laughing with her and ignoring me. You let her reorganize my kitchen, plan my Thanksgiving, and touch you like you're still together. His face hardened. She touched my arm once. Don't make it into something it's not. It's not just that. It's everything. She's here one afternoon and she's already running the show, and you're acting like that's completely fine. Because it is fine. She's Keith's mother. She's allowed to be involved. Not like this. Like what? She's cooking a meal. She's helping clean up. What exactly is the problem? The problem is that she's acting like this is her family reunion, and you're letting her. Garrett stood up. This is a family reunion. Keith, Diane, and me, we're still a family. We're always going to be a family. If you can't handle that, that's your issue, not mine. I'm not asking you to stop being a family. I'm asking you to remember that I'm part of your family now, too. You are. But that doesn't mean Diane gets erased. She's here for Keith. She's being respectful. She's helping out. And you're turning it into a problem because you can't stand that she exists. That's not fair. Neither is you making everyone miserable because you're jealous of a woman who's just trying to support her son. I stared at him. I'm not jealous. Then what are you? I'm trying to keep some sense of boundaries in my own home, and you're acting like that makes me the villain. You're acting like the villain because you're treating her like an intruder when all she's doing is being here for Keith. She's doing more than that. She's cooking Thanksgiving dinner, that's it. She's taking over my kitchen, my holiday, my life, and you don't even see it. Garrett grabbed his pillow off the bed. I'm sleeping on the couch. I can't do this right now. He walked out and closed the door behind him. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor until my eyes blurred. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of Diane and Garrett laughing in the kitchen. I checked my phone. 6:30. I'd slept maybe 4 hours. I stayed in bed until 7, then got up and walked into the kitchen to find Diane pulling ingredients out of the fridge while Garrett made coffee. She was already dressed, hair done, moving around the space like she'd been doing it for years. Good morning, she said brightly. I'm getting started on the stuffing. Keith's going to help me in a bit. I was going to start the turkey, I said. Oh, I can do that too if you want. I've made turkey 100 times. I've got it. Garrett handed her a mug of coffee. You sure? Diane's great with turkey. I'm sure. I pulled the turkey out of the fridge and started prepping it at the counter. Diane moved around me, pulling out bowls and measuring cups, opening drawers I hadn't told her about. She found the bread in the pantry, the celery in the crisper, the sage I'd bought specifically for today. I love cooking Thanksgiving, she said. It's always been my favorite holiday. Keith used to help me when he was little. Remember that, Garrett? He'd stand on a chair and stir the stuffing mix. He'd get it everywhere, Garrett said, smiling. One year he sneezed right into the bowl. We had to start over. They both laughed. Keith came out at 8. Still in his pajamas, and Diane pulled him into the kitchen. Come help me with the stuffing. Just like old times. He grinned and started chopping celery while she directed him, adjusting his grip on the knife, telling him to make the pieces smaller. They worked side by side while Garrett leaned against the counter watching them, and I focused on the turkey, trying to block out the sound of their voices. Rachel texted me at 9. How's it going? It's going, I wrote back. Need me to come early? No, come at 2 like we planned. Okay, hang in there. By 11, Diane had taken over most of the kitchen. Her stuffing was in the oven, her green bean casserole was prepped and waiting, and she'd started setting the table without asking where anything was. She found the good plates in the cabinet, the cloth napkins in the drawer, the serving dishes I'd bought last month and hadn't used yet. This is going to be beautiful, she said, stepping back to look at the table. I'm so glad we could all be together for this. Garrett walked over and put his arm around her shoulders. It means a lot that you're here. She leaned into him. I wouldn't miss it. I turned back to the stove and stirred the potatoes harder than I needed to. Rachel arrived at 2 with a bottle of wine and a tight smile. She hugged me in the doorway and whispered, You look exhausted. I am. Diane came out of the kitchen and greeted her warmly. Rachel, so good to see you again. Thank you so much for being flexible about the room. It really helped. Sure, Rachel said. We sat down to eat at 3. Diane had rearranged the seating so she was next to Garrett. Keith was across from them, and Rachel and I were at the far end of the table. Garrett said a quick grace and we started passing dishes. For the first 20 minutes, it was fine. People ate, people complimented the food. Diane told a story about a Thanksgiving when Keith was 12 and burned the rolls. Keith told a story about a Thanksgiving at his grandparents' house. Garrett added details. Rachel stayed quiet. Then Diane's face changed. She set down her fork and pressed her fingers to her mouth. Her eyes went shiny. I'm sorry, she said. I just need a second. Garrett leaned toward her. What's wrong? It's nothing. I'm fine. Diane, she shook her head, wiping at her eyes. It's just hard, you know, being here, seeing Keith like this, remembering what it was like when we were all together. Keith shifted in his seat. Mom, I know I shouldn't say it, but it's Thanksgiving and we used to do this every year as a family and now everything's different. And I look at Keith and I just see how much he's struggling and I feel like I failed him. Her voice broke on the last word. Garrett reached over and took her hand. You didn't fail him. He's going to be fine. I know, but it's so hard to watch. And being here in this house with you, it just reminds me of everything we had. She squeezed his hand. I'm sorry. I don't mean to make this about me. It's okay, Garrett said softly. It's been hard for all of us. She nodded, still holding his hand, and wiped her face with her napkin. Keith stared at his plate. Rachel looked at me. Garrett kept his hand on Diane's for the rest of the meal. When she talked, he listened. When she teared up again, he rubbed her shoulder. When she laughed at something Keith said, he smiled at her like they were still sharing a private joke. I sat at the end of the table and ate potatoes I couldn't taste. Rachel left right after dessert. I'm not feeling great, she said, standing up abruptly. I think I'm going to head back to the hotel. I followed her to the door. You don't have to go. I I do. She looked past me into the living room where Garrett and Diane were sitting on the couch still talking. I can't watch this anymore. I'm sorry. Rachel, I'll text you later. She hugged me quickly and left before I could say anything else. I went back inside and started clearing plates. Diane jumped up. Let me help. I've got it. No, really, you cooked most of this. The least I can do is clean up. She followed me into the kitchen and started loading the dishwasher, reorganizing how I'd started stacking things, wiping down counters I hadn't gotten to yet. Garrett stayed on the couch with Keith, their voices low. By 8, Diane said she was exhausted and went to bed early. Keith followed her down the hall, hugged her goodnight, then disappeared into his own room. Garrett stayed on the couch, scrolling through his phone. I sat down next to him. We need to talk, I said. He didn't look up. Not tonight. Yes, tonight. He sighed and set his phone down. What? That was unacceptable. What was? All of it. The way she cried at the table, the way you held her hand through the entire meal, the way you ignored me completely while you comforted her about your failed marriage. She was upset. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to remember that I was sitting at the same table. You were supposed to act like you're in a relationship with me, not her. I was comforting Keith's mother. That's it. You were holding her hand while she cried about missing your marriage. Rachel left because she couldn't stand watching it. That should tell you something. Rachel left because she was uncomfortable. That's not my fault. It is your fault. You made her uncomfortable. You made me uncomfortable. You spent the entire day acting like Diane is still your wife and I'm just some person who happens to live here. Garrett rubbed his face. You're overreacting. It was an emotional day for everyone. I'm not overreacting. You chose her comfort over my dignity, and you did it in front of everyone. I chose to be there for the mother of my son when she was struggling. That's what decent people do. Decent people also acknowledge their current partner. Decent people don't hold their ex-wife's hand through an entire Thanksgiving dinner while their girlfriend sits at the other end of the table being ignored. I wasn't ignoring you. You didn't look at me once after she started crying. He stood up. I'm not doing this tonight. I'm tired. You're upset. We'll talk about it tomorrow. No. I stood up too. We're talking about it now. Because if you can't acknowledge that what happened today was wrong, if you can't see that Diane overstepped and you let her, then I'm going to start looking for a new place to live. He stared at me. You're threatening to move out over Thanksgiving dinner. I'm telling you that this dynamic is unsustainable. You brought your ex-wife into our home. You let her take over our holiday. You held her hand while she cried about your marriage, and now you're acting like I'm the problem for being upset about it. She's Keith's mother. I know that. But she's also your ex-wife, and you treated her like she's more important than me. That's not co-parenting. That's you choosing her over me. I'm not choosing anyone over anyone. You are. And if this is what our life is going to look like every time Keith has a problem, if Diane is always going to come first, and I'm always going to be the one pushed aside, then I can't stay. Garrett's jaw tightened. So that's it. You're giving me an ultimatum. I'm telling you what I need. I need you to admit that today was wrong. I need you to set boundaries with Diane. I need you to act like you're in a relationship with me, not her. I am in a relationship with you. Then prove it, because right now it doesn't feel like it. He stared at me for a long moment, then shook his head. I think you should sleep on this. You're emotional. Tomorrow it'll look different. It won't. We'll see. He walked past me into the bedroom and closed the door. I stood in the living room alone, my hands shaking, and pulled out my phone. Rachel had texted me an hour ago. I couldn't stay. I'm sorry. Watching him treat you like that made me sick. You deserve so much better. I read it 3 times, then sat down on the couch and stared at the dark TV screen until my eyes burned. I woke up on the couch at 6 in the morning, my neck stiff, my mouth dry. Garrett's bedroom door was still closed. The guest room door was closed. Keith's door was closed. I sat up and stared at the coffee table for a long time before I stood up and went to the kitchen. I made coffee and waited. Garrett came out at 7. He didn't say good morning. He poured himself a mug and leaned against the counter. We need to talk, I said. I know. I need Keith here too. He frowned. Why? Because this involves him. Because he needs to hear what I'm going to say. Garrett set his mug down and walked to Keith's door. He knocked twice, opened it, and said something I couldn't hear. A minute later, Keith came out in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking confused and annoyed. What's going on? He asked. Sit down, I said. They both sat on the couch. I stayed standing. I'm going to say this once, and I need you both to listen, I said. What happened yesterday was unacceptable. Diane was invited to stay here without my real input. She took over my kitchen, planned my holiday, and acted like this was her house. Garrett spent the entire day treating her like his partner instead of me. He held her hand through Thanksgiving dinner while she cried about their failed marriage, and I sat at the end of the table being ignored. My sister left early because watching it made her sick. That's what happened. That's the truth. Keith opened his mouth. I held up my hand. I'm not done. I know Diane was emotional. I know she's worried about you. I know she didn't mean to hurt anyone, but impact matters more than intent. Her presence turned what should have been a shared holiday into a reunion that excluded me completely. And Garrett let it happen. He chose her comfort over my dignity, and he did it in front of everyone. Garrett leaned forward, hands clasped. I didn't realize it looked that bad. It looked exactly that bad. Rachel saw it. I saw it. The only people who didn't see it were you, Diane, and Keith. Keith shook his head. My mom was just trying to be helpful. She wasn't being helpful. She was taking over. And when I tried to set boundaries, you all acted like I was the problem. You made her feel unwelcome. I made her follow the same rules any house guest would follow. That's not unwelcome. That's normal. She's not a house guest. She's my mom. She's your mom and Garrett's ex-wife. She's not part of this household. She was visiting. That's it. Garrett rubbed his face. I was trying to keep everyone happy. You kept everyone happy except me. That's the problem. You can't build a relationship by making sure your ex-wife is comfortable while your partner is miserable. That's not sustainable. I didn't know you were that miserable. I told you multiple times. You didn't listen. Keith stood up. So what? You want an apology? Fine. I'm sorry my mom being here ruined your perfect holiday. I don't want sarcasm. I want you to understand that what happened was wrong. What happened was my mom came to see me when I needed her, and you made it into a disaster. I didn't make it into anything. Garrett invited her without asking me. She took over without checking with me. You all acted like I should be grateful to have her here. That's what made it a disaster. Garrett stood up too. Okay, I hear you. I should have handled it differently. I should have been more aware of how it looked. I'm sorry. Are you sorry it happened, or are you sorry I'm upset about it? He paused. I'm sorry you felt excluded. That's not the same thing. I don't know what else you want me to say. I want you to say you understand that Diane overstepped, that you enabled it, and that it can't happen again. It won't happen again. She's leaving today anyway. That's not the point. Keith crossed his arms. What is the point then? The point is that this revealed a bigger problem. Garrett will always prioritize Diane's feelings when it comes to you. She'll always be part of the inner circle, and I'll always be on the outside. That's not a relationship I can stay in. Garrett's face went hard. So you're leaving. I'm saying I can't live like this. If every time you and Diane need to co-parent, I get pushed aside, if every time Keith has a problem, she gets to move into my house and take over my life, then yes, I'm leaving. That's not fair. What's not fair is asking me to accept being second in my own relationship. Keith walked toward his room. I can't listen to this. Keith, Garrett said. No, I'm done. You two figure it out. He went into his room and shut the door. Garrett stared at me. You just made this so much worse. I didn't make anything worse. I told the truth. You told your version of the truth. My version is the only one that matters. I'm the one who got hurt. He picked up his mug and walked into the kitchen without answering. I heard Diane's door open 20 minutes later. She came out dressed, her bag already packed, and stopped when she saw me sitting on the couch. Good morning, she said carefully. Morning. She walked into the kitchen. I heard her and Garrett talking in low voices. I caught pieces of it. She's really upset. I know. I didn't mean to cause problems. It's not your fault. Diane came back into the living room a few minutes later, her bag in her hand. I think I'm going to head out, she said. I don't want to make things more difficult. You don't have to leave early. I think it's best. She looked at me, her eyes red. I never meant to make you feel unwelcome. I was just trying to be there for Keith. I'm sorry if I overstepped. Thank you for saying that. She nodded and walked to the door. Garrett followed her out to her car. I watched through the window as they stood in the driveway talking for a long time. He hugged her before she got in. She wiped her face. He waved as she pulled away. When he came back inside, his jaw was tight. She left early because of you, he said. She left early because the situation was uncomfortable. She left because you made her feel like she wasn't welcome. She wasn't welcome, not the way she acted. She's Keith's mother. I know. You've said that 100 times. It doesn't change anything. He walked past me into the bedroom and shut the door. I sat on the couch and pulled out my phone. Rachel had texted me that morning. How are you holding up? Not great, I wrote back. Diane left early. Garrett's mad at me. Keith won't talk to me. Good. Let them be mad. You told the truth. I don't know if it's going to change anything. It might not, but at least you said it. I put my phone down and stared at the wall. Keith moved out 2 weeks later. He said he'd found a friend with a spare room, that it was time for him to get his own space, that living with us was too stressful. He packed his things while Garrett helped him load the car, and when he left, he hugged Garrett and nodded at me without saying anything. Garrett blamed me. He was fine until Thanksgiving, he said the night Keith left. You made him feel like he couldn't stay here. He was already planning to move out. He told you that when he first got here. He wasn't planning to leave this soon. He left because living here was uncomfortable. That's not my fault. You made it uncomfortable. I set boundaries. That's not the same thing. Garrett shook his head and went to bed without finishing the conversation. Over the next few weeks, he grew more distant. He stopped asking about my day. He stopped making plans with me. He spent more time on the phone with Keith, talking in low voices in the other room, and when I asked what they talked about, he said it was just checking in. I started looking at apartments. I didn't tell Garrett. I didn't tell anyone except Rachel. I scrolled through listings late at night when he was asleep, saved the ones that looked promising, and tried to imagine what my life would look like in a one-bedroom with no guest room, no partner, no stepson who hated me. Rachel came over one afternoon when Garrett was at work. You're really going to do this, she said. I think I have to. Have you told him? Not yet. When are you going to? I don't know, soon. She looked around the living room at the couch we'd picked out together, the coffee table Garrett had built, the framed photos on the wall. This is going to hurt. I know, but you can't stay. No, I can't. She hugged me before she left, and I sat on the couch for a long time after she was gone. That night, I opened my laptop and started a spreadsheet. Mortgage payments, utility bills, furniture we'd bought together. I tried to figure out what was fair, what I could take, what I'd have to leave behind. Garrett came home and saw me working on it. What's that? He asked. I closed the laptop. Nothing. It didn't look like nothing. I didn't answer. He sat down next to me. Are you leaving? I'm thinking about it. Because of Thanksgiving. Because of everything Thanksgiving showed me. You'll always put Diane first when it comes to Keith. She'll always be part of your inner circle. I'll always be the one on the outside. I can't live like that. So you're just giving up. I'm acknowledging reality. This isn't going to change. You're not going to change. And I can't keep fighting for boundaries that you don't think I deserve. He stared at his hands. I don't want you to go. I don't want to go either, but I can't stay and be second in my own relationship. You're not second. I am. And you can't see it. That's the problem. He didn't say anything else. He got up and went to bed, and I stayed on the couch with my laptop, staring at the spreadsheet until the numbers blurred. A week later, I sat in the guest room with the door closed, the room that had started everything. The bed was made with the sheets Diane had slept on. The closet still had the extra hangers she'd used. I looked around at the space and thought about how much had unraveled because of 4 days, one holiday, one ex-wife who couldn't stay at a distance. I'd been right to fight for boundaries, I knew that, but being right didn't mean I'd won. It just meant I'd seen the truth clearly enough to know I couldn't stay. I pulled out my phone and opened the apartment listing I'd saved that morning. 1 bedroom, 10 minutes away, available in 2 weeks. I stared at the photos of the empty rooms and tried to picture myself there, starting over, building a life that didn't include someone else's ex-wife at the center of every major decision. My finger hovered over the contact button. I took a breath and I pressed it.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop your favorite part in the comments. See you in the next one.